Anyway, what was I bitching about? Oh, my cat dealer. It got so bad that the gal had to tell me, Mr. So-so doesn't want to talk to you. And women know what's best, especially when it comes to heavy equipment and the gender or whatever of their target audience. So anymore, I'm 65. I don't give a rat's ass. I'm going to town on these rocker boxes. I want to show you what not changing the oil does. I mean, it's just cooked on there. And I've been going after this side with a bristle brush and some, what do you call it? What are the Scotch-Brite pad? Jeez. And that's what it takes to get it off. If you're using a good diesel engine oil with detergent in it and changing it regular, there's no reason to have one crapped up like this. I mean, just imagine the damage it does. If you go watch the Zach Life on YouTube, Zach Dillard, he had a D9H, a power unit, came out of the oil fields, and he had the side panels off the pan, and he was just scraping like sludge out of the bottom of the crankcase. And it's probably because they never changed the oil and the thing just sat there and idled because it was like a backup on a backup generator or something. So it just sat there and idled. And if you're gonna idle, you better double your, or cut in half your oil change intervals. In your car, where you use like Pennzoil or some other gas engine oil, this will even be worse. If you go, you know, you're going 10, 15, 20,000, whatever you're going on oil changes, you'll have clinkers in the lifter valleys. I've seen that before, absolute clinkers. You can pull a coffee can full of clinkers out of the valley. Anyway, change your oil, boys. I have finally got this clean. I mean, you had to go after it with a steel brush. And then some, God, why can't I ever think of the name of that? A Scotch-Brite pad. And then the gasket was so stuck on that other one, I gave up on it. Could not get it off. This one I left in the bottom of the parts washer overnight, all day yesterday and tonight, last night. I don't know where I'm at. Anyway, this gasket came off most of it. There was just some places I really had to scrape to get it off. So I put the other one in the parts washer and I may leave that overnight. That I sprayed gasket remover on that, some Case IH stuff, which is usually pretty good, and it did not help it. But soaking in that parts washer really helped it. So I got this over here. It's intake exhaust, intake exhaust, intake exhaust. These arms have a different number, so for my reference, I gotta take a video of it and show the way these are offset. Yeah, I think really these need changed. You can see that shiny there. You can catch your fingernail on it. It's good over here, but not there. Good here, but not so much there. I'm gonna have to figure that one out. I'm gonna have to call Dwayne. Alright, before you can get these out of here, I have to take a thread chaser nut. They'll screw in all the way like this, but it's something about where that lock nut sits that it messes them up. And I got this one out and I had to use a screwdriver with a crescent wrench on it to finally get it out. But you've got to take a rethreader and go across that. Now, I've got one over here I absolutely can't. I can't crank it in. I mean, I've lubed it, I've cleaned it, I've tried everything, and it's just not gonna go in. So I'm gonna screw it all the way out tight and then try to run the threads on it and see if it'll come out. But I got a jeweler's eyepiece and a light. When you looked in on these threads in the area where they always had the lock nut, it's like it was super roughed up down just below the top of the thread. There was like lots of tear material. So I went over and wire wheeled the heck out of it, and it still won't go in. A tap will go right in this hole, piece of cake. It's this piece because of the lock nut. You can just pound these out with a punch. They're not that tough in there, but there's a hole there, and there's a hole there, and the oil comes in through this hole in the bushing here and goes into this, and then there's a little teeny hole, if you can see that, right down by the base of the thread. So it looks like all it's doing is dribbling oil into this joint, ball joint in the cup. And then in order to get this piece out, there's a clip in there. You got to be careful, you bend it. It's about like baling wire, but it has two flat sides on it. That's the side I bent. Might have to get a new one. And so what you got to do is you got to tilt this thing over, get a little teeny flat blade screwdriver in there, and then pry on that until you see where this end is, and then you can pry that up and then come around the other way and get the other one out. But I think I'm gonna have to replace these because they all show signs of some pretty darn bad wear. Yeah, right there. See how it's really wore. So anyway, I've got my shaft apart, and they got these springs on here, and it does actually more damage than anything. The surface where the bushings run, I can feel a little bit of wear. So we'll see if these are available, and then I'm gonna need a bushing driver to remove these and reinstall new ones. I'll replace all the bushings. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that all of these need these things, whatever they call them. They all need replaced. They're terrible. And I don't know how you would grind something like that. I really don't. Oh, it also puts oil. I didn't notice that hole. There's a hole there, one on the end. So it's also putting oil through that somehow. Dribbling through. So somebody pulled the threads so badly on that. Oh, you can see that. Turn it around here. Heck, I can't even see that through there. Trying to get them cleaned up enough I can get that out. So the mechanic that tightened those up used no torque wrench at all, so I can go about that far and that's it. And I think what happens is you look down in that hole, there's threads in there, and you got a hole here and on the bottom, so there's a cavity. So when that bad spot gets in there, it just doesn't want to go through. So I guess I'll just keep filing until I can figure out where the high spots are. See if I can get her out. So I can't get that one out. This one with the bad threads, I ground them off, but I couldn't get to this very last part because it was up against here, and I didn't want to damage the rocker arm, so I just ended up cutting the ball off of it. And I tried to go after that with a hacksaw wouldn't touch it, so I had to take the Dremel tool and cut it off. So I don't know, I'm almost ready to give up taking these out. I found my tool, and it was laying under this bench table here. So this is, I'm pretty sure Jake made this for me. This is an old D9 water pump shaft. So this end is for driving the bushings out, and this end is for pushing them in so they end up exactly centered in the hole. So I got to clean that up and mark it, put it in the drawer with all the other pullers he's made me, pulling devices. Anyway, I'm so glad I found that, because I was over here in a vise with a big socket and a small one trying to push them out, and that wasn't working. All right, so I took the plugs out of these shafts to clean them out, because even after running tons of solvent through here, and it just doesn't get this black sludge out. I mean, this was covered in crap, this one plug. So I measured the shaft, and with new bushings will be well within the reusability guidelines. So check that out. There isn't hardly any spring left. It's been turned to where that was up against the fitting on here. So it goes in there, and that spring, see if we can find the bad spot. Right there is where the bad spot was. So because of the way it's oriented, you can see that bad spot. It was up there against that, moving and vibrating. So I got the second set of rocker arms undone. Look what those springs do to that shaft. And that's, let's see, where's the oil hole? That's probably where that fitting sits. And if you don't get that spring turned correctly, and maybe the action of the rocker arms eventually end up turning it, but it just burrows a hole in it. But I've cleaned it all up. Everywhere one of these holes is the bearing surface. So the shaft is supposed to measure, well, let's go look again. Dang it, I forgot already. Diameter of rocker arm shaft is 12235, and I get 123 on the shaft where the rocker arms don't run. And then the bore in the rocker arm bearing is 1226. And you're allowed a maximum of minimum permissible clearance between shaft and bearing 9. So where the rocker arms run, it measures like 122.5. So it's got about a half a thousandths wear in the shaft. I probably could have just used the bushings again, but I ain't gonna do that. So that tells me the shafts are good to go. This one, I chased the threads on it and then used the screwdriver on this to get it out. But I want to show you how bent they are. Look at how much that thing is bobbing up and down. And that's why they don't like to come out. There's a spot in there where they're bent. How do you bend something like that? Or are they just not made well? I don't know. This one here wasn't bad. Let me show you the last one. This one is what the nut runner did. When it got to here, I had to put the screwdriver with a crescent on it while I turned that nut runner. And then once I did that, it would turn, but I had to take this I had to put it in the vise like that and get this in there and turn it like a quarter of a turn till it finally came out. Now the threads inside these look fine. They look fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I can take a thread runner in there, not a tap, but I'm using a thread cleaner, run it through there, and it just goes through fine. No problems whatsoever. So anyway, what a pain. So now we got to get screwdriver. I broke the tips off one of my Craftsman screwdrivers. Boo-hoo. So I back it out tight, then put this nut runner on there. And these are hard. I mean, these are hard. You can't cut them with a hacksaw. You gotta cut them with a skinny wheel. I cut the one, just was not going to come out, so I ended up cutting the head off of it and screwing it out. See, this one's going quite easy. It goes right up there, cleans up really well. So I'm not sure why they're bent, and I'm not sure, I mean, how in the world do you destroy threads in something that's that hard without damaging the threads inside of here? I don't know. So what I do now, we'll spray some, getting on the camera here, spray some jizz in there, some on there. Take the old screwdriver. These are a nice set my son Taylor gave me, some Milwaukee's. I can feel grit going in there. It's not turning easy. So what I'll do is I'll go as far as I can and back it out and give it the business again to see if I can wash off any debris. Okay, now we're at the point where we've got to start using a crescent on it. We'll see if it'll come through. So far so good, but sometimes it'll lock up and then I got to get a hold of that head in the vise and turn it. Getting tight. Getting tight, baby. So I will come back. This, I don't know, this never helped on any of the other ones, but we'll give it a whirl. Let's see if we got some debris in there, and it looks like we do in one spot. I see some weird shinies. I don't know, maybe that's just bubbles. It's good bubbles coming off of there. Now you got to be careful if you damage or bend any of these where the screwdriver goes, it's going to seize up in there good, because when I damage those and then try to put the nut runner back on, I have to take a file to these just right here where the screwdriver slot is, because it tends to roll up those edges. This is where you tear the hide off your fingers and your knuckles when it slips out. Anyway, I'm not going to use these again because they're so damaged. All right, so that's not going to work. So now we're down to this method. Camera's going to want to move. So you turn it clear around here, tighten that up, go like that, do it again. You do that 900 million times until you run it out with the screwdriver. This one's not too bad so far. Sometimes you really gotta crank down on them. I think the ones that are bent are the worst. I don't know how they get bent. It's like somebody used an impact wrench on these, or did they at one time hit a valve, and that's what did it, and didn't replace them? If you hit a valve, you better be replacing or checking rock or they're damaged. Alright, so now, we're at the point now where we can maybe go ahead and, yep, do it by hand. I think I've done enough damage for one night. I got all these apart, got those apart. So I just need to order some parts. Clean them up, get the bushings in, put them back together. Put them in a garbage bag, all assembled and lubricated, so they're just ready to go right on. Oh, and yes, I did use heat. Didn't do a thing. I didn't want to get them too hot. But they were fairly, one was fairly warm, and I just went, no, we ain't doing that. This is how you get those, what do you call it? What do you call them? Out of here. I take a 7/8 impact socket and set it in there. So what you don't want to do, I'll show you what you don't want to do. You don't want to take one, put it in the vise and tighten it down, because it'll turn and it'll dick these surfaces up. Ask me how I know. Just clamping them in there to get those screws out was a major no-no. So I go back to my little plastic deals here and then clamp them in like this. That way you're not going to damage them. So I have that set all cleaned up, ready to go. I have ordered all these parts. New springs, short and long, these buttons, these deals, the adjusters, the nuts, the soft plugs for the ends of the shaft. Guess what that cost? $1,000. $1,000. Uh-oh, we got an alert. Endangered missing person. Frank Albert Cunningham. Age 50-something. Talks funny. Driving an old international truck. Boy, I sure hope they find Frank. Don't know what I'd do without Frank. Come back to us, Frank. Alright, so I think I've already run the threads on these before and gave up getting them out. But these were available at Home Depot. No, available at my Caterpillar dealer. Pretty much everything's at the Spokane warehouse. So ordered on a stock order. I'll have it Wednesday. So every day at Western Stock Day, you just have to order it 2 days ahead. Go figure that out. Well, Jeff, every day is a stock order day. You know, those guys, I love the guys down at the store. I get along with those people fine, the guys that just work for them. But the people at the offices, at headquarters, are a bunch of stuff. And I don't think they like Jeff. I mean, seriously, what is there not to like about Jeff? You remember me telling you the story about decking the 1693. If you're new here, I got a 1693 over there I want to build and restore my old A model Kenworth. So I wanted to bring my block down to have it decked. It's did I squirt you again? That's really all I wanted to do, was just have it decked. piece of cake job. And I talked to like 4 people. Anyway, I ended up trying to call their social media person before that episode, and their social media, or well, it's just their media guy. I don't know who he is. It was a he at the time. They got a she now. They're he in and a she in it. So anyway, at that time, the media guy refused to take a phone call from me, if you can believe that. Maybe you can. Maybe I am a dick. I don't know. Me just sitting here talking to you about how they treated me probably means I'm a dick. I guess that probably qualifies me, because they don't want any criticism. And it's like, well, if you don't want any criticism, just talk to me and say, Jeff, you're toxic. We really don't want anything to do with you, okay? All right. Or just say, you know, our policy is this, that, and the other thing, and we're just not interested right now, maybe later, whatever. I don't know. But they never would do that. They just blow me off. And then when I built the N14 and I wanted them to dyno it, nope, it wouldn't do her. And I'd still like them to, I'd like to dyno this D9 engine. I think it'd be cool as crap to see how much torque a D9 engine makes and how much horsepower we get out of it with a switchblade turbo on it. Anyway, what was that? Where was I going with this? Oh, so I saw a couple of young twerps that have moved to northern Idaho, and it looks like they had a new skid steer or something, and they were on Instagram. I think they have a YouTube channel. I don't know what it is, and I don't care, but I messaged them on Instagram because they said we're partnering with Western States Equipment. So I just asked him, I says, when you say partnering, what does that mean? And the guy, I don't know if it was him or her, they come back and said, I don't understand what you're asking. God, do they put stupid shit in the Oreos now? Cheerios? So I just kind of said the same thing again, and they come back and they said, we don't share our partnering. So I just said, well, I was just curious. I said, I've been trying to work with them for years, and they refused to talk to me. I just wondered if she sucked somebody's, you know what, or what they did to get in. But they're not going to talk about it. So this is how I got to undo this. It's the only way I can hold on to that. It's getting easier now. But you can't, no matter what you do here, you can't go round and around. Hello. I figured everybody's out of money. Yeah, ain't that something? How's Matt? So we had a job lined up for the fall, but guess what? They ain't got no money. Story of our life. They ain't got no money. Ain't got no money. Anyway, what was I bitching about? Oh, my cat dealer. So it doesn't matter whether I never said anything about him until that a-hole that headquarters refused, literally, absolutely refused to take my phone call. It got so bad that the gal had to tell me, Mr. So-so doesn't want to talk to you. Can you believe that crap? Well, they got rid of him or he left, but not over that, I don't think. Now they got some women in there, and women know what's best, especially when it comes to heavy equipment and the gender or whatever of their target audience, you know. So anymore, I'm 65. I don't give a rat's ass about them. I don't care about corporate, what goes on in their barnyard. I do like the people at my dealership. They may not like me. I don't know. Oh, that was something else I told those influencers. I said, well, I have 10 pieces or 11 pieces of cat equipment. Why is no one talking to me? Why are they dealing with a couple of Fruit Loops in northern Idaho? Seems like that's where everybody's going, to become a Fruit Loop. Wish they'd just drive on by, never come back. See, these are nasty. Nasty! The worst thing is tightening and untightening this vise a million times. God, how many more have I got to go? All right, let's see. All right, this is the last one. But I gotta go over and sit in that chair over there and take 5. Okay, so the other reason that I'm taking these out, and it's a good thing, is you see that little hole right there? So they drilled that through here and into that hole, and then there's one all the way through here, goes inside here, and this one has a little teeny hole where the oil comes out, and it can't leak oil. It can't push it around those threads and out that hole enough to do anything, but it does have to come through here and drip down on that button. So, and then on this, oh excuse me, the button is on this end, so there's a little teeny hole. I'll show you that right here in this groove, and that groove is full of crap. And when I take this over to the parts washer, I got a little nylon brush that goes in here, and you can't believe the amount of black that comes out of that hole. Even though I've washed these several times in there and run solvent in those holes, it's just, it doesn't get that black out because it's so cooked on there. So the only way to get this stuff out is with a brush, and the last thing you want to do is risk something plugging that hole or plugging the other hole, that little teeny one that takes care of that button. So that, and the threads are pulled on them, so there's no sense doing a half-ass job, is there? Because we ain't half-ass around here. So, I've been cleaning up rods, caps, all that fun stuff. I just wanted to show you the size of this from one end to the other. We're 20.5 inches long on that rod. That's looks like about a 2.5 inch pin. Anyway, that's a big old son of a gun there. And I got, you can see the wear right there. But I want to show you this piston. Let's see. I've never ever seen one crack like that. And the aluminum's all burned off. And on this side, there's a chunk missing. That should be nice and tapered. There's a melty booger right there. And you can always tell on a pre-cup engine. So that pre-cup blows the fuel after it ignites inside this cup down against that button. And that's a steel button. If it wasn't there, it'd burn a hole through the piston. But you can always tell a major overfueling situation by the cracks away from that heat plug. And there's lots of them, and they're quite long. So apparently somebody's jacked her up. So when I go through the fuel system, we'll have to get the rack turned back down. It would be interesting to get it on a dyno, see how much horsepower it was putting out, but that's the broken piece, melted out. You can see the chunk of aluminum over here. There's a gob of it that literally melted it. It's got a fair amount of oil stain there. The interesting thing is how stuck with carbon this lower oil ring is. I mean, if you turn it, the pieces just fall out of the groove. So overfueling. So these rods have a lot of bearing mark in them. So I'm sure these ends will have to get probably lightly honed and resized. And then measure the distance center to center and see how far they've stretched. If they're able to be resized within spec so the center to center distance is correct. Anyway, I got my table cleaned off. I've got all my valve train stuff in here. I think I mentioned that I bought the parts for it. That's $1,000 to fix all that, and that doesn't include shafts. And I showed you the other day, we're well within spec still on the shaft. So everything was available, springs, everything. So it's not a problem to get that stuff. So that's one chunk of iron right there. Now, I do have another piston over there that's broke, even worse than this one, I believe. So that rod that's still hooked to that piston is no good. I don't think those rods are at all salvageable. Yeah, look at the crack in that one. Look at that crack coming clear out to there. That one's broke too. I guess I've never seen a D9 piston broke like these. That one's broke. I don't know about these ones. I'm sure they are. That one was hitting the head. That one was hitting the head even worse. Huh. So gonna have to find a couple of good rods, good used rods. So somebody was asking me the other day what I'm gonna have into this when I'm done, and I just started doing some math in my head, and I'm guessing an easy 20 grand without labor, my labor, to get this back together. So I am going to wash my grubby little hands and go in the house. It's time to quit. It's dark 30, so I will see you tomorrow.